The LA Kings get set to open up the Stanley Cup playoffs at home, and you have your say on what's going on with the team, especially the Darnell Nurse hit on Quinton Byfield. That and more on this fan feedback edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years, also co-host of Locked On NHL Game Night, the nightly NHL podcast and YouTube show that you can check out that recaps the night in the NHL. We had a preview of the Stanley Cup playoffs on our latest show, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Well, the Kings are resting up for a couple of days, getting ready to start the Stanley Cup playoffs in Los Angeles, once again facing the Edmonton Oilers, but this time the Kings have home ice advantage. Game 1 Monday in LA. But before we start getting into that big showdown with the Oilers, we need to get your thoughts on what's going on with the team as the regular season has now come to a close and we get ready to start the playoffs. It is your chance to sound off, critique, complain, praise, bloviate about our beloved Los Angeles Kings. So let's get right into your emails. And not surprisingly, we have quite a few Kings fans wanting to chime in on the Darnell Nurse Quinton Byfield incident. The first email comes from Scott in Simi Valley. He says, wow, just wanted to put my 2 cents in about the criminally short suspension to Darnell Nurse for his savage cross-check to Q's head. This ugly display by the most overpaid player in the NHL, a goon who has a long-standing history of suspensions and violence, was as a clear an intent to injure as you'll ever see. The NHL officials who decided that trying to smash an opponent's face into the ice surface, possibly knocking him out for the season or even worse, was only a one-game suspension. They're either morons or just want McDavid and Draisaitl to advance for higher TV ratings. Let's not forget Nurse's headbutt to Philip Deneau in the 2022 playoffs. Nurse only got a one-game suspension for that barbaric act also. If the league ever wants to become credible in the sports world, they've got to pull their heads out of their asses and put competent officials in place. Whoever made this decision is either dishonest or doesn't know what the hell they're doing. I seem to remember Arthur Kaliev getting a 4-game suspension for an infraction that was far less heinous than Nurse's. And even if this was done by a Kings player, I would be calling for way more than a 1-game suspension. If trying to drive the shaft of a hockey stick through the back of a player's head is a 1-game suspension, what would it take to get 5 games? Perhaps for 5, the NHL believes the receiving player has to leave the ice on a stretcher. The NHL will always be a joke to those who chastise its lack of professionalism, and this screw-up is a good example why. We very could see Darnell Nurse in the first round and not Q. This is complete BS, and so is the league's embarrassing lack of consistency in regards to suspensions. This is also a perfect example of why I may be a huge Kings fan, but not of NHL officials. I wonder how the NHL can be so screwed up that they don't even protect their players from butchers like Darnell Nurse. Thanks, Eddie, and go Kings go. And that is Scott in Simi Valley, one of our weekly emailers. Obviously, that was written before we knew that Quinton Byfield would be able to play in the playoffs. And I completely understand the anger and honestly the fear that we may have lost a key player for the playoffs for an absolutely reckless and unnecessary act. And Scott, you were correct. Whether you think what Darnell Nurse did was savage, as Scott put it, or at the very least unnecessary and dangerous, I will repeat what I said at the time and what I've literally said for years on another show. The NHL Department of Player Safety, which, by the way, is run by a former goon in George Peros, can't just be about punishment. It also has to be about prevention. Just because Quinton Byfield didn't get hurt, thankfully, that doesn't mean that an act like that should only get a slap on the wrist. It's ridiculous to only punish a dangerous act if it results in something bad. You have to send a message that that's not allowed, regardless of what happens with the player involved who is the victim in this. By not punishing Nurse, they completely have condoned what he did. If the NHL truly wants to take this kind of thing out of the game, you don't under penalize it, you over penalize it. You make it so it's not worth it to players to do something like this. For Darnell Nurse, there's no way in hell that him having to sit out the final regular season game, a meaningless game, was any kind of punishment to him whatsoever. He won't think twice about trying to do something like that again. My cousin, but not really my cousin, Jesse in Visalia, whose last name is Garcia and is living in the area that I grew up in. Anyway, Jesse says, the stage is set. All the underlying stories of this series are out, and my one concern is Quinton. How in the F did Nurse get one game? He's a repeat offender with a history of headhunting. Just ask Dano. Nurse is a reckless thug, and now the punishment he got leads me to believe he'll do it again. Now, on the other side of this situation, I was embarrassed for Q, no type of retaliation right after the play. Keep us updated on his injury, and I've got us over them in 6. Go Kings go. And that was Jesse and Visalia. Once again, that was obviously sent before we knew that Byfield was going to be okay. I think I mentioned it on this show. As if that punishment wasn't ridiculous enough, there were 3 suspensions in the NHL in the same week, all for illegal contact to the head. Paul Cotter of the Devils got a 2-game suspension for a hit to the head of the Islanders' Adam Pellish. Jesse Puljujarvi of the Panthers got a 2-game suspension for a hit to the head in a game against Tampa Bay. And Darnell Nurse was suspended for a hit to the head, and he gets 1. Unlike the other 2, Nurse's was actually after the whistle, which should have made it worse. So you literally had a standard this week. 2-game suspension, 2-game suspension, and it should have been a 2-game suspension. Why was it not? Because the NHL didn't want Nurse to miss a playoff game. That should have no bearing on it. I understand they don't want to hand out a suspension for a playoff game, but he's the one who did it to himself. You still need to enforce the rules. So it's just ridiculous that you had, again, 3 incidences in the same week. 2 of them got 2 games, and then 1 of them got 1 game. It's unbelievable, but yet believable. Darren in the OC says, I love your daily podcast and listen every morning on my way to work. Thank you, Darren. I wanted to talk about the Oilers and specifically Darnell Nurse. What he did Monday was gutless to QB. This guy has now been suspended 4 times. He's a repeat offender. Also, the fact that he suffered a serious head injury this season should have made him more aware that this type of stupidity is not welcome in the NHL. My problem is that the NHL continues to play favorites with the Oilers. This team gets away with murder every year. McDavid, Kane, Perry, they're all dirty, and the league knows it. So if they say let's say Edmondson hit McDavid or Leon like Nurse did, he would only get 1 game? No way. More like 3 to 5 at least. There is a double standard. I'm tired of the league catering to the Oilers. The Kings deserve more respect. Ultimately, beating them in the first round will be the best payback, but most will agree the Oilers are the dirtiest team in the NHL. Keep up the great work. And again, that was Darren in the OC. I don't know who the dirtiest team in the NHL is at this point, honestly. A lot of that kind of stuff isn't really a reality in the game anymore. I will say this, though. I do get why the Oilers were sensitive about their toughness lately. They got called out by their fans. They got called out in the media for not sticking up for their goalie, Stuart Skinner, who got run into and got injured a few weeks back. However, the hit by Mikko Rantanen of the Stars, it wasn't a dirty play. He just ran into him and he got hurt. What Nurse did was, like, even if Quinton Byfield would have ran into their goalie, cross-checking a guy in the back of the head when he's defenseless and laying face down on the ice, there's no situation where that's okay. So I will say this. I hope that Quinton Byfield is pissed off about what happened. I hope he is extra motivated to shove it down the Oilers' throats for that, because that could have been a lot worse. And we're all glad, thankful, and he's fortunate that it wasn't. So look, Quinton Byfield's going to be a big player in this series. He needs to play at a certain level. And I'm not suggesting he should go out and retaliate or anything like that. I'm just saying I hope he's extra motivated to really stick it to the Oilers because of what Darnell Nurse did. We'll see. Up next, one of the most unique questions I can remember being asked on this show. That's next on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick, 4K devices, no console required. Just grab your paired controller, Subscribe or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed, as easy as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming, you can watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus Max, and more. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controllers required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. Our next email comes from Travis. He is in Tucson, and he says, I know the playoffs start this weekend, and that is the primary focus, and hopefully the next 2 months. This Kings team is the most confident I have felt about being capable of a deep run since 16. That said, I wanted to touch base on free agency and some hypotheticals. As of right now, the Kings have about $23.5 million in projected cap space. Should they re-sign Gavrikov and give Laferriere likely a 2-year bridge deal, I'd imagine that it'd eat up about $10 million. When you shift out some depth moves, Portillo replacing Rittich, Lewis gone, etc., you're looking at about $13 million left over. We know Rob Blake made the pitch to Rantanen with about $12.5 million average annual value extension. That was rejected as he didn't want to play here. The PLD move and Rantanen attempts at least indicate that Blake is trying to make a move for a cornerstone player going forward. We've seen over the years that it's been tough to land big-name free agents, whether it's the taxes, cost of living, geography, whatever the case may be. The Kings have always had to settle for second-tier free agents. However, when guys have been traded here or have been homegrown, they tend to stay. This leads us to Mitch Marner. $13 million should get it done. He's right-handed. He's a 100-point scorer. He has a connection with Jim Hiller. If there was ever a chance to land a big-time free agent, this seems like the guy. Would you rather see the Kings go all in on a guy like Marner, or would it make more sense to split up the $13 million, bring back Kuzmenko, and try for Brock Besser? As much as I've enjoyed Kuzmenko and his playoff performance should change, and his playoff performance could change my mind, I've been dying to have a consistent point per game breaker here since Ziggy Palffy. Keep up the great work, Kings in 6, and that is Travis in Tucson. Honestly, Travis, I think it depends on what the Kings do this postseason. If they lose to the Oilers again, to me, they have to get into an arms race and try to match the Oilers with star players of their own, and I would absolutely go all in on Mitch Marner. That doesn't necessarily mean Marner will come here, but I would go after him as hard as I could. Now, if the Kings make a deep playoff run this season, then I think you make moves to keep this team mostly intact with some more minor upgrades here and there. And obviously go for it again next season with what you've got, but making some additions where necessary. So I think this Oilers series is obviously huge for a number of reasons, but also it will likely set the tone, not likely, it will set the tone for what the Kings do in this offseason as well. By the way, I agree with you, Kings in 6. John, formerly of Tokyo, now in Greensboro. That's quite the switch. Greensboro, North Carolina, I assume. He says, Eddie, I hope all is well. My comment question is, the Kings are putting up a season to remember with home wins, points, and outstanding defensive stats. But they didn't win the division, and none of this matters in the postseason. It is said in sports that teams must build rosters to first overcome their division opponents. I'm not sure what I've seen this season, if it's enough to knock off the Oilers in the playoffs. I hope, based on the regular season against top teams, that it is. What do you honestly think? And that was John, formerly of Tokyo, now in Greensboro. I honestly think the Kings are a better team this year than the Oilers. They are better defensively. They are much better in net. They are at least as good 5-on-5. They have more depth than the Oilers, and they are way more healthy, and they have the home ice advantage. What the Kings don't have is the two best players on the ice. That will be Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Those two guys are amazing, but hockey's a team sport. I don't believe, as great as those two are, that they alone can carry the Oilers to a series win over a team that I believe is clearly better all around than the Oilers. So if Draisaitl and McDavid score big goals in big moments, if the power play is a huge disparity, then yes, the Oilers can win the series. But if McDavid and Draisaitl are just contained, I mean, they're going to have their moments. That's just the way it is. But if they're contained and the Kings just have a better all-around team, wave after wave, going after the Oilers, I honestly think that it's the Kings' time this year. But they got to go out and do it, obviously. Jake in West Covina says, "Hi, Eddie. Love the show." Thank you. When the Kings lose, you give perspective. When they win, I celebrate with you. A few things. Number one, you need to eat your words about Warren Fogle. I believe you called last year's offseason trade underwhelming. Hey, sometimes it's great to be wrong. LOL. Number two, Byfield. It's great to see him mature. Even in the loss to Calgary last night, he made some amazing moves between opposing players. With that size and skill, he's only going to get better. The fact that Nurse cross-checked him in the back of the head tells you what kind of threat Byfield has become. Also, TNT Hockey Night has a Canadian bias. The last time I watched the show, Jim Hiller had just become head coach, and the Kings were playing the Oilers, vying for a playoff spot. Who do they talk to before the game? Evander Kane. Why are they talking to Kane? They could have talked to Jim Hiller, a new coach. Kopitar, who is at the end of a glorious career. No, they talked to Kane. Then they showed the Gretzky statue, which I also respect, but Dustin Brown has a statue at Crypto 2, and he should be in the conversation as one of the greatest Kings. I still watch it, though, because I love hockey. I enjoy the banter between periods. Rant over. That is Jake in West Covina. I did say that I thought the Kings' signings this offseason were underwhelming, and I think they were. I don't know anyone who said, oh, my God, this is the missing pieces for the Kings. But they were players that the Kings felt filled a specific need and would make the Kings a lot better in the playoffs, which we haven't seen yet, but addressing certain areas. And I was not so sure about that. But so far, the Kings have been right, and I have been wrong. But, and I believe with all my heart and hope with all my heart that I continue to be wrong. But we've got to see it make a difference in the playoffs. Jim Hiller and Luc Robitaille said the Kings were close, and I thought they were nuts. Well, time to show us. This was a special regular season. I hate to say it, but it's true. If they lose in the first round, it really doesn't matter. So please, Kings, keep proving me wrong. I did say, by the way, I thought Warren Fogle was a good addition, but the overall signings of Edmondson and Jeannot and even Kemper at the time, I was not blown away by it. I absolutely wasn't. I don't know many people that were. Arturo in Long Beach, he says, I have two questions for you. When Edmonton's on the power play and they try to strike us with the most offensive line to try and score a goal, why don't we hit them with the ultimate shield of a penalty kill unit with 5 defensemen? Has any other team done this before from a strategic standpoint? Also, I'd like to know your thoughts on the controversy surrounding Artemi Panarin. The news broke out. I was in shock because I really respect what he does on and off the ice. If these allegations are true, all that goes out the window. Thanks for all you do. Go Kings, go. And again, that was Arturo in Long Beach. Arturo, when I read your idea of 5 defensemen on the penalty kill, I laughed out loud, but not laughing at you. I have honestly never thought of that before, and I absolutely love the outside the box thinking. But if you really think about it, first of all, it couldn't be 5 defensemen because the Kings would be shorthanded, so it would have to be 4. And you wouldn't, usually a team, I know the Kings have carried 7 defensemen sometimes, but usually it's 6. So if you put 4 defensemen out there, it would probably gas your D group, right, for a while. And I think, though, situationally, maybe you could be onto something. For example, if it was very late in the game and you really don't care if your defense is gassed for a while, if it's right at the end and another team gets, let's say, a 5-on-3 power play, you could put out Brant Clark, Mikey Anderson, and Drew Doughty. I actually think it's a very fun idea and not a bad question at all. I think if it was to be tried, again, it would have to be situationally. But to answer your question, I don't know that I've ever seen a game where a team put out an all-defensive penalty kill unit. As for the Artemi Panarin situation, I mean, for those who don't know, he was accused of sexual assault by a team employee. This happened a year ago, apparently. The Rangers and Panarin agreed on a settlement, and the woman was paid a certain amount. She signed a confidentiality agreement. Panarin admitted no wrongdoing, and she has now moved on, and he's now moved on. And the NHL has said they knew they were informed about the situation, and they consider the matter closed. So I've covered sports for a long, long time. I've heard about these types of stories way too often. And the fact of the matter is, the only people that know the truth are the woman and Artemi Panarin. What actually happened, I don't know. People assume that because you pay a settlement, that means you're guilty. Because why would you do that if you were innocent? I get that. But, sometimes people who have money want to pay things to just make them go away. And sometimes they're advised to do that by lawyers. So I don't know what happened. And you're free to draw your own conclusions. But like I said, really the only people who really know are the two people that were involved. And obviously he's not going to talk about it. And she signed a deal that she would not talk about it. So it's unfortunate, certainly. Will Ed and Brea guarantee a Kings loss? That's next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. There is nothing like the energy of a live game, whether it's catching a last-minute NHL showdown or soaking in the excitement of an NBA matchup. But finding great seats at a great price, that used to be a challenge until I found Gametime. Gametime makes scoring last-minute tickets easier than ever. Prices actually drop as the event gets closer, and with their all-in pricing, you can see the total cost up front. No surprises at checkout. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concert, comedy, and theater events. And with seat views before you buy, no surprise fees, and a lowest price guarantee, you can book with total confidence. Their lowest price guarantee means I never worry about overpaying. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that is code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. This comes from Dario. He is in parts unknown. And he says, hello, Eddie. For a little while, I was mad at you for embarrassing me on your show. It was about Byfield, and I have to say that I am so very happy that Byfield proved me wrong. I feel that Nurse should have been suspended for cross-checking Byfield for the back of the head. I was very proud of Fiala for standing up to Byfield, or for Byfield. I've been a Kings fan just after they existed in 1967. My father took me to my first Dodger game, and Sandy Koufax pitched. I saw O.J. Simpson, Gale Sayers, and Kareem when he was still Lou Alcindor at UCLA. But it was hockey that I fell in love with. My father passed on in 2013, but he was able to see the team win their first championship, and I felt that he had something to do with the team winning in 2024 for me. I look forward to every season. This season was so much fun because no one gave this team a chance to do good, myself included. I liked the signings, but I felt like they needed one goal scorer, and when Doughty went down, oh boy, I felt like they were in trouble. But the young players stepped up. At least the last half of the season was unbelievable. I love this team. I'm proud of them. How far will they go? I don't know. But they have a chance to break the team's record for regular season points, which I have always wanted to see. Sorry for the novel email. Thank you for what you do, Eddie. Much respect. And that was Dario in parts unknown. Obviously, he sent this email before they played their final game. They were not able to break the record for wins and points in a season, unfortunately. So, Dario, I'm sorry you feel I embarrassed you on the show. I'm not sure how I might have done that. I assume from what you wrote, maybe you had said that Quinton Byfield was never going to be any good, and I said you were wrong or something like that, but certainly no offense was intended. We can disagree from time to time, but I'm not looking to embarrass anyone, and you're entitled to your opinion, and we're entitled to disagree. So, as Kings fans, we all want to see the team do well. I'm glad your dad got you into hockey and that he got to see the Kings win the Stanley Cup. This is from Ed and Brea. He says, I watched your Oilers Kings episode. You made your picks with your heart. Maybe I made mine with my brain. As we face the Oilers for the 11th time in our playoff history, which is the most of any opponent, a bit shocking since the Oilers merged with the NHL from the WHA in 1979, while the Kings were expanded from 1967. I sadly have to guarantee the Kings will lose to the Oilers 4-3 since destiny is against us. The Oilers are 8-2 all-time against the Kings in playoff series, winning the last 6. Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are 6-2 on our home ice in this Kings era. For the Kings to have a chance against the Oilers, they need to limit the special teams and keep it 5-on-5 hockey. Since the addition of Kuzmenko helped the offense and use our strength with our defense and goaltending. Kings do have more size and grit this time. Congrats to Darcy Kemper winning the team MVP. Well-deserved since he had a nice renaissance season. Go Kings, go always. And that was Ed in Brea, who has officially guaranteed that the Kings will lose in the playoffs to the Oilers. And Ed, I think I speak for all Kings fans everywhere when I say thank you. And thank you to everyone who took the time to email. And this show is literally not possible without your participation. So thank you very much. I do have some prospects news to pass along before we wrap up the show. But first, I do want to say, because I'll explain why in a minute. Our next episode has already been recorded. I will be at games 1 and 2. Likely we'll get to go to all the Kings playoff games. I hope, I believe. So if you're going to be out there and you want to reach out, feel free, social media, email, all that. I will be in the press box. I cannot cheer. The Kings worked very hard to earn home ice. If you are going to the game, please bring some attitude. Be a factor. Get the Go Kings Go chants going early and often. Lift this team up. Give them energy. Make home ice really matter. I'm serious. You guys, if you're going to the game, be a factor. Again, the Kings got home ice this time. Let's make it count, and you can play your role. Let's rock the house on Monday at crypto.com arena. Now, before we go, I would like to give you a quick update on some Kings prospects. The OHL playoffs are still going on. Kings first-round pick this year, Liam Greentree, who's been spectacular this postseason, did not play in the Windsor Spitfires game due to an illness, and his team lost to the Kitchener Rangers 5-2 to extend that series to a 6th game. Windsor still has a 3-2 series lead. We'll see if Greentree feels better and can play in the next game, which is Game 6. On Sunday, he leads the OHL in goals scored. He's been one of the best point producers. He's been an amazing postseason. So feel better soon, Liam Greentree. And by the quick correction, I said the other day that Kings prospect defenseman Jared Woolley and the London Knights had advanced to the OHL finals. Not correct. They actually have advanced to the OHL semifinals. Also on Friday, the Ontario Reign played their second to last game of the regular season. They beat the San Diego Gulls 2-1. The Reign got second period goals from Charles Udon, his 20th, and Caleb Lawrence, his 5th. And Kings goalie prospect Carter George got the start and impressed again. He allowed 1 goal on 28 shots. He's now 2-0 since joining the Reign. In 2 games, he's faced 61 shots, and he's stopped 60 of them. Also saw he has a slick new black goalie mask, which looks very, very cool. He has to be so excited to be playing on a decent team. He's been in the OHL the last 2 years, and he's been in a shooting gallery because he plays on a terrible team, and he's making the best out of a bad situation. But it's only 2 games, but very, very impressive 2 games for Kings goalie prospect Carter George. We also had recent NCAA champion Hampton Slukinski, who looks legit. Kings goaltending of the future looks like it is set, and that is very exciting. The only bad thing about this is Carter George can't be resent to he can't be signed by the Ontario Reign for next season. Because of his age, he either has to go back to junior or play for the Kings next season, and that's not going to happen. So he'll have to go back to juniors, but he looks like he's already ready to play in the NHL, or the AHL, I should say, the AHL, which is very exciting. All right, for your everydayers, those of you listening to watch Locked On Kings every day, I have recorded an interview with Kings longtime TV analyst Jim Fox. I did it earlier in the day, and I had planned on releasing it on Saturday, but I realized I've actually, with this episode, recorded 6 episodes this week. So as much as I love you all, I'm not giving you a free episode. So we are going to hold off on releasing that interview with Jim Fox. I'm going to put it out there Monday morning before Game 1, Kings versus Oilers. I think it's a really good interview. I think you're going to enjoy it. Jim Fox, always great guest. And again, on Monday's show, or interview we've already done, Jim Fox talking about the Kings Oilers series. I think you will definitely like that. If you want to get an email for a future feedback show or for any other reason, the email address is lockedoneddie@gmail.com. You can always leave your comments if you're watching on YouTube in the comments section. We'd love for you to stay interactive with the show on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We are at Locked On LA Kings. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you for listening and watching this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I haven't said that very often. Have a great rest of your day. We will have a great weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday. And as always, go Kings go.